Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are setting aside the conventional view of medicine to dive into a premise that is both challenging and, honestly, quite inspiring.
Hmm.
What if disease isn't some villain to be defeated, but is actually a profound, often critical messenger with something vital it needs you to understand?
That idea right there, that the body is a partner in communication, not a battlefield, that's really the foundation of the sources we're unpacking today. We're looking at the work of Alex de Silva Santos. He's an acupuncturist with, wow, nearly 4 decades of experience who is actively bridging ancient principles of traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, with, contemporary psychology and even neuroscience.
Right.
So our mission here is to move beyond just the surface of physical symptoms and get right to the emotional root of suffering, to find genuine equilibrium.
Okay, so let's unpack this author and his approach a bit.
Yeah.
Alex de Silva Santos, 39 years practicing acupuncture, and he's developed some pretty unique methodologies.
Mm.
Things rooted in advanced ear reflexology and energetic balancing techniques.
Hmm.
And this deep dive really focuses on his core belief, which is that truly engaging with this knowledge is like getting a passport to a lighter and happier life. We're here to talk about turning chronic challenges into, well, opportunities for real change.
Exactly. And to guide you through this whole complex blend of ancient wisdom and some pretty modern claims, we've structured the deep dive into 3 clear stages. First, we'll examine the philosophy of disease as a teacher, how our body goes from a quiet warning to an outright scream.
Okay.
Second, we'll look at the incredibly specific map of how repressed emotions manifest physically using the TCM organ system. And finally, we will discuss what is maybe the most surprising revelation in the sources: a powerful and fast-acting tool for trauma resolution called Akasviras.
Let's start with that opening challenge for you, the listener. If you're experiencing some kind of persistent illness or chronic discomfort, what is that condition trying to tell you? I mean, it might be obvious, a lack of sleep, too much fast food, but these sources, they push us to look deeper. Is it about unresolved emotions, maybe holding on to old resentments, or just feeling totally overwhelmed by your relationship with the world right now?
The material makes a very compelling point that purely symptom-based treatment is, well, it's just not enough. It uses a great analogy. Treating symptoms is like patching a hole in the wall without solving the water leak.
I like that.
Yeah, you might stop the immediate drip, but the core structural issue is still there, just waiting to resurface. True healing, in this context, it demands that we look beyond the obvious physical pain or the fatigue to find the deep causes, and those could be physical, emotional, or even spiritual.
That analogy is strong, but okay, here's where a deep dive has to ask the hard question. How does the source reconcile this emotional spiritual idea with diseases that seem purely genetic or acute or viral? Where is the line between a messenger and just a biological accident?
That's a vital question. And the sources, they do acknowledge biological factors, of course, but the focus shifts entirely to the body's response, its resilience.
Ah, okay.
They argue that an emotionally balanced body has the vital energy, the key to heal itself more efficiently. The core belief is that emotional discord creates an energetic weakness, which then makes the physical body a much more welcoming environment for illness to take hold.
So it doesn't matter if the trigger is external or internal.
Exactly. The pre-existing emotional condition, that's what determines the severity and the persistence of the disease.
So it's about shifting from being, I guess, a passive victim to an active participant in managing the environment inside your own body.
Precisely. And what's fascinating here is the complete transformation of perspective that happens when you adopt this view. When we stop seeing the body as a battlefield we have to conquer with harsh measures, and instead start seeing it as a partner whose signals like pain, fatigue, even a low fever are just urgent communication.
It changes everything.
It changes your entire relationship with health. And true health, as it's defined in these sources, isn't just the absence of disease. It's a state of equilibrium and peace with choices and the world. It's a pursuit of wholeness.
That reframing is key. And it leads us right into this idea that the body will inevitably express what we don't resolve in the mind. Those lingering emotional burdens, the hurt, the chronic sadness, the fear, they're not just abstract thoughts. They are, according to the source, small requests for help, being sent by the body, asking for a resolution.
And the material details a fascinating, almost mechanical 4-stage progression for how these unresolved emotions kind of descend into physical manifestation.
Let's track that journey from thought to flesh.
Okay, so stage 1 is stress, the initial trigger. An intense, unresolved emotional experience hits the system. Could be a sudden trauma or just that persistent low-level friction. This event leaves an immediate impact, creating what Alex and Silva Santos calls a knot in our vital energy. It's the starting point.
No, which then leads directly to stage 2, the energy blockage.
Mm-hmm.
So after that initial knot, the repressed emotion creates a serious obstruction. For listeners who know some TCM, this is stagnation. If we think of qi as a flowing river, this blockage is like a huge dam dropped right in the middle.
A massive rock, exactly. The current can't follow its natural course, and that affects everything: physical, mental, and spiritual harmony.
Okay.
And here's where the physical body starts trying to, negotiate with the problem. If we ignore that blockage, we move to stage 3, discomfort, or the first warnings. The body starts sending these subtle but persistent signs, just loud enough to be annoying. Think of that unexplained fatigue that lasts for weeks, or mild aches that seem to shift around, changes in your sleep, or just a nagging feeling that something is out of place.
And if we're being honest with ourselves, that's where most of us stop the analysis.
Yeah.
We take something over the counter and just keep pushing through, right?
Exactly. And the sources really emphasize that this is the point of missed opportunity. If we keep ignoring those warnings, we inevitably hit stage 4, disease, or when the body screams. The emotional root has been ignored for so long that the energetic discomfort finally evolves into a physical illness that is now loud enough to truly demand attention. A chronic ailment, a severe pain, a major systemic issue.
Wow.
And at this stage, any treatment has to confront those hidden emotions, not just the physical pain they created.
That comparison to an energetic burden is just so relatable. It's like wearing a backpack full of stones all day, every day. It just drains your vital energy, creating this perpetual state of energetic debt that weakens the immune system over time. The source describes these negative feelings like an app running constantly in the background on your phone, just silently draining the battery.
That's a perfect modern analogy for it. And when you close that emotional window, you free up immediate energy for healing and for living.
Which leads us perfectly into the next layer. TCM gives us the specific dictionary for where these imbalances settle and how they materialize.
Right. The TCM view is firm. The mind is the maestro of the body. So if the maestro is disorganized because of negative emotions like sustained anger or paralyzing fear, the music of life loses harmony, and that blocks the flow of qi.
So disease is basically the materialization of that long-term emotional dissonance.
That's the idea.
Okay, this is where it gets really detailed, mapping specific emotions to specific organs. And for listeners who might be skeptical, we have to remember this map is based on thousands of years of observation. It's framing these organs as energetic systems, not just biological pumps. Let's start with the lungs.
The sources connect the lungs to deep sadness, grief, and melancholy. They represent our connection to the world, our ability to, breathe in and take in life.
And when they're blocked by that chronic sadness,
The whole system weakens. The symptoms can be really diverse. Beyond respiratory problems like allergic rhinitis or just general fatigue, the sources note connections to issues with elimination, specifically constipation.
really, constipation.
Yes, because the lungs are paired with the large intestine in TCM.
I found the specific physical location really interesting here. That persistent aching pain right between the shoulder blades.
It's a very common symptom, and symbolically, it represents carrying sadness. The weight of the world on your back. The body is asking you, what burden do you need to let go?
And that need to let go flows right into the intestines, which the sources call the masters of detachment.
They reflect our literal and metaphorical difficulty in eliminating what no longer serves us directly.
So physically, what does that look like?
Well, if we look at physical signs, conditions like hemorrhoids can indicate difficulty releasing old grievances or financial stress. The body is physically holding on to the pressure.
And the opposite.
Conversely, episodes of sudden severe diarrhea can be the body trying to dump excess toxic emotions because it just can't hold on to the pressure anymore.
Moving to the center of stability, we have the spleen, which is linked to worry and excessive caretaking. It's called the mother protector system.
Right. It governs stability, logical reasoning, transformation. But when that nurturing quality turns into obsessive protection, excessive worry becomes the villain. The source explains that trapped thoughts, these endless loops of anxiety, lead directly to poor assimilation. That can manifest as digestive issues, trouble concentrating, and it can even show up as accumulating fat in the midsection.
Which is described as a literal security blanket, right?
A security blanket to buffer yourself from the perceived threats of the world. It's a clear example of mental preoccupation materializing physically.
And following that path is the stomach, which processes life experiences, not just food. This includes what the sources call swallowed frogs, those things we tolerate that deeply bother us.
Absolutely. When something isn't being well processed emotionally, when we're struggling to ingest a difficult truth, the stomach reacts immediately.
Gastritis, ulcers.
Gastritis, painful ulcers, or significant appetite changes. The physical body is just mirroring the difficult ingestion of a life challenge that the mind hasn't fully digested.
Okay, now let's talk about the liver.
Yeah.
The strategist, the planner, the general of the body's operations, but it's deeply sensitive to repressed frustration and anger.
Repressed anger, according to the source, turns the liver into a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Energetically, this is liver key stagnation. Physically, we see extreme muscle tension headaches, high blood pressure, even loss of mobility or flexibility.
So all that tension is just unexpressed rage turning inward, making the body rigid.
That's it. But the other side of that coin is an incredibly valuable state. And balanced liver is the source of rapid, wise decision-making, creativity, the ability to pivot. The source uses this analogy of immense power. When it's controlled, it's beneficial. When it's unbalanced, it's just pure stress and damage.
And finally, we get to the kidneys, the deep reservoir of our vital energy, our essence, and the foundation of our will. What's the emotional strain that attacks this reservoir?
That would be fear. Chronic fear, whether it's conscious anxiety about the future, fear of loss, or deep unconscious insecurity, it crystallizes this essential energy.
And physically?
Physically, this can manifest as chronic lower back pain, knee issues, or even a loss of structural integrity like osteoporosis. It symbolizes a loss of firmness or base strength in life. The kidney's message is that we have to find the resilience to move forward, even when the path is scary.
Labyrintite or chronic inner ear issues with vertigo serves as a powerful bridge here. It's described as reflecting an overwhelmed mind, accumulated stress, and deep cervical tension. It's a clear physical call to reorganize, to decelerate, and find your balance.
The body is signaling that you are lost in your own internal maze, which is why the transition works so well. The inner ear, where balance is governed, is a key area on the TCM map, and it's also the focus of the revolutionary solution presented in these sources.
Now we move to the part of the material that I think genuinely offers a paradigm shift. This revolutionary solution for dealing with a lifetime of emotional baggage. The problem being that internal guard fear that sometimes turns into an over-the-top dictator fueled by trauma.
And the revolutionary solution introduced is Echosferis. This technique was developed by the Brazilian professor and researcher Raul Breves after more than 20 years of study, intentionally combining TCM, psychology, and neuroscience to create a rapid, effective method for trauma resolution.
Let's spend some time on the mechanism because this is the critical part. We assume that healing trauma requires deep, painful verbal discussion. But with Echosferis, small metallic spheres are placed on specific points on the ear.
Right, drawing on auriculotherapy, which sees the ear as a complete map of the body and central nervous system.
So what's the claim?
The key claim is that the physical stimulation of those specific points bypasses the conscious mind. The person getting the treatment does not need to verbally recount the trauma or analyze the fear. They simply bring the feeling or the memory to mind, and the ear points are stimulated.
So if trauma is stored in the limbic system, the brain's emotional center, the ear points are like a direct nonverbal route to that center, overriding the emotional program.
That's the hypothesis. By applying pressure to these nerve clusters on the ear, a specific signal is sent that's theorized to interrupt that chronic emotional loop, the constant app running in the background we talked about. It's essentially hitting a neurological and energetic reset button on the stored emotional memory.
Breaking the connection between the memory and the negative feeling.
Yes, breaking that pathological connection.
The sources claim that the negative feelings disappear instantly and that the cure is definitive. As objective deep divers, we have to look at that. Definitive is a monumental claim. What does it actually mean here?
The claim of definitive cure is presented as the definitive release of that specific emotional weight, which then allows the body's natural energetic flow to proceed unimpeded. It's not a cure for all future challenges, but a permanent undoing of past emotional knots.
And the result?
The outcome described is an indescribable sensation of liberation and lightness, the immediate freedom from that burden.
And what makes this so interesting to our audience is the accessibility factor. The source materials note that the technique can be applied remotely, at distancia, allowing practitioners to facilitate this healing for people all over the world.
It speaks volumes about the synthesis of TCM and modern tech, doesn't it? If the energetic imbalance can be mapped and addressed via specific frequencies or targeted stimulation, even remotely, it completely changes the geography of emotional healing. It reinforces that idea that the impossible becomes possible.
It connects back perfectly to the synthesis of the entire approach. Healing is not just the absence of pain. It is, as the Source puts it, a reunion with our most genuine essence. Trauma isn't a permanent sentence. It's an invitation for self-knowledge.
The sources fundamentally shift the responsibility back to the individual. Listen to your body, understand the message, and then use targeted methods, ancient or new, to remove the energetic blockage. That is the path.
So what does this all mean for you? If Akasspheres and similar techniques offer a definitive release from the immense weight of emotional baggage and trauma that has been draining your energy for years, just to think about the potential that is unlocked. What kind of energy is available in a life where your mind and body are no longer fighting old battles, where your only remaining fear is the healthy, alerting kind that keeps you safe, not the paralyzing dictator fueled by the past?
It's an incredible concept to reflect on. To move from the default state of fighting symptoms to actively listening to the body's messages and consciously seeking foundational emotional peace, that is the real journey these sources invite us on. Consider the specific physical symptoms you carry and maybe ask yourself, if this pain is a messenger, what is the emotional request that I've been ignoring?